Thanks for joining me on episode 501 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Matt Woodrum, podcaster and father in training. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talents, and your treasures, having the calling to face your demons and struggle to become a great father for your children. And one way to be inspired to do this is to listen to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Maynard.
At least at some level, have the hope of enjoying. Now, don't get me wrong, getting up in the morning and going for a run is probably not something that most people would describe as enjoyable, but the outcome behind it, what that does for you, is something that you might see as an enjoyable. So the enjoyment here can be deeper than just source level.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
Today on this episode of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, I'm talking with you about a special topic, annual reviews. I've broken it up into 4 parts, and if you missed it, last Monday we talked about the review step. We're also going to talk about plan, reflect, and revise. And today, we're diving deep on planning. You know, one area that a lot of folks need some help with is around the area of productivity. Getting not just more things done, but actually getting the right things done can be really, really tough. I've got a course called Productivity for Your Passion that's designed to help you do this and then to hold you accountable and walk with you so that you can tailor productivity not just to be getting more done, but actually getting the right things done. What's more, we take the approach of looking at your personality and how you actually look at things in the world and tailor the productivity system to your personality. Because the truth is, a lot of the systems that are out there are written really well for somebody with a particular personality type. But if you have a different approach to things, they just don't work. But there's tools and techniques and approaches that you can take that will work for anyone. And we help you do that in Productivity for Your Passion. Check it out over at inspiredstewardship.com/launch. At first glance, as we talk about doing the annual review and beginning to look forward into 2020 and plan, just like in the last week when we talked about review and I pointed out that this is something that you can do not just annually, but you can actually set it up and do it weekly, do it monthly, do it quarterly, and then do it at the end of the year as well. Planning is the same way. I do a weekly plan at the beginning of each week. I do mine on Sunday night. There's no magic to doing it on Sunday night. Just set up a time and a place and do it in a routine way. And in that weekly planning period, I look forward at the week that's coming up and I look at my time and I figure out what kind of appointments do I have, what sort of things are coming up. I block those off and make sure that time is accounted for. And then I fill in with a plan around the rest of my time for the week. I do the same thing for a month. I do the same thing each day. When I get up in the morning and I look at my day, I look to see if anything's adjusted since I worked on my weekly plan. And I do that quarterly and then across the year. So right now we're kind of at a yearly period where you would begin to think about what are your big goals that are coming up for 2020. So as you have you done your review and you've looked at what you got done last year and you're beginning to think about what are the areas of my life that I want to focus on for 2020? You want to go through the list of the kind of 7 zones of your life. And you'll see this divided different ways, but generally what it boils down to is you want to think about your spiritual life, which is including things around meditation, around prayer time, scripture, these sorts of things. Your financial area. What are your monetary goals for this year, both personal and business, if you have both? Physical areas. What do you want to do in terms of health and fitness? Intellectual. What do you want to do to grow your mind? Relational. What do you want to do around friends and family? Work and career goals. And then fun or recreational goals. As you think through these 7 areas of your life, you want to begin to think about 2 or 3 things within each of these as a maximum that you want to focus on this year. Even if you did 3 across all 7 areas, that'd be 21 separate goals, which is a lot to do in a 12-month period. And what we're really going to do is we're going to focus on different goals at different points. Some things will end up being goals that we work on across the entire year. Some will be goals that we focus on for just a particular period of time. And so by doing that, you can balance this and not really be doing 21 things each and every day and each and every month, because that would be overwhelming and impossible. I generally don't have 21 separate goals. I usually end up with about 10 or 12 because there's some areas where really I'm not looking for major growth in that area right now. I'm just looking to maintain something. Or perhaps I have just one goal in that area. Like as a physical goal, maybe it's just a walking goal to walk a certain number of times a week or to go to the gym a certain number of times a week. And that's enough because it encompasses a wide area of growth. So you yourself may have a certain number of goals. Probably it shouldn't be more than 21, and it should definitely be less than that. And it should be more than 1 or 2. Because again, this is for a year at this point. What kind of goals do you write? You want to write what I like to call SMARTer goals. And again, this is an acronym that you'll see floating around the internet. You'll hear about SMART goals and SMARTer goals. And different people put different terms with different letters, but here's kind of how I use it. I'm looking for goals that are specific. That's what the S in SMARTer stands for. Goals that are very clear and exactly describe what it is you're after. It's not okay to say, I want to lose weight. If you want to lose weight, tell me exactly how much weight you want to lose. I want to lose 75 pounds. It needs to be measurable. That's the M. So measurable, meaning there is some way to see the results. It doesn't necessarily have to be measured in a number, but you should be able to, at the end, somebody from outside should be able to look at it and go, yes, you achieved that goal, or no, you did not. It needs to be action-oriented. That means it needs to have a verb. It needs to be about doing something. The other way to look at that A is it needs to be something achievable. But I don't like that one because when we say achievable, we tend to lower the bar. We tend to do something that is less than a stretch goal, something that's pushing us. The R stands for risky. This is something that pushes the envelope a little bit. You want to be going out on the limb, but not too far. This can't be so overwhelming that you'll never get started, but it needs to be something that scares you a little bit. The T stands for time bound. Going back to that weight goal, I want to lose 70 pounds by December 31st, 2020. That's what it means to be time bound. You've put a beginning, a middle, and an end onto the goal. If it's a habit goal, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, it needs to be something, how long are you going to stick to that habit? E, it needs to be something exciting, ethical, and enjoyable. It needs to be something that you kind of get pumped up about. It needs to be something that is not going to be illegal or immoral, and it needs to be something that you, at least at some level, have the hope of enjoying. Now, don't get me wrong, getting up in the morning and going for a run is probably not something that most people would describe as enjoyable, but the outcome behind it, what that does for you, is something that you might see as an enjoyable. So the enjoyment here can be deeper than just source level. And then the last R in smarter is resourced. It needs to be something that you have access to tools and abilities, or it's going to be something that you're going to have to grow some skills and some tools and some abilities. And to do that, you know what you at least need to first start getting. You don't need to know the entire destination, but you need to know at least part of it. Once you've come up with these smarter goals, write them down. I can't stress this enough. There is vital import in actually writing the words onto a piece of paper. Post it where you can see it. Look at them as part of your weekly review, as part of your monthly review. I look over my monthly goals and my annual goals each and every month. That way I know, am I on track? Am I working on the right goals at the right time? A minute ago, I mentioned habit goals versus something else. There's two kinds of categories of goals. There's habit goals and achievement goals. A habit goal is something where it's focused on doing something over and over again, going to the gym 3 times a week, brushing my teeth every night. These are habit goals. They're about reoccurring patterns of behavior. The other kind of goal is an achievement goal. This is about, I want to increase my income by $1,000 a month. I want to have 10 more clients this year than last year. I want to achieve a weight of 120 pounds. And the truth is, most goals can kind of be structured in both ways. You can create a habit goal that will lead to an achievement goal, or you can create an achievement goal that will mean that you will have to perform certain habits. But try to think about what is the way that you want to measure this particular goal. That's what helps you decide, is it a habit goal or an achievement goal for you? We'll talk some more in next week about kind of some of the things you can do around your time when you're beginning to do the reflection and the revision phases, which are the ideas that'll come up next. But at this point, if you've been following along, you've conducted your annual review, you've looked at last year, and now you're beginning to put in place plans for 2020. And I hope you're beginning to get excited about it and beginning to look at the next year and go, this is some stuff that I really want to do. Share your goals with me. You can shoot them over to me at scott@inspiredstewardship.com. I'd love to take a look at them and get excited and help celebrate your ideas for 2020. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.